The sharp scent of engine oil mixed with new paint filled the air. Bright white lights bounced off polished chrome as the Mercedes truck showroom gleamed like a palace of steel. Salesmen in crisp suits and women in glossy heels laughed softly near the front desk, until the glass doors slid open. An old man stepped inside. His beard was long and white, his shirt faded and patched at the elbows. Dust clung to his boots like he had walked 100 miles. A torn backpack hung from one shoulder, and in his eyes, there was a calmness that didn't belong in a place built for power and wealth. For a moment, silence. Then whispers. "Does he know where he is?" one of the salesmen muttered. The man didn't answer. He just walked slowly, eyes roaming across the shining machines like someone searching for something he once lost. When he reached the biggest white truck in the room, he laid a rough, scarred hand on its chrome grille and whispered, almost to himself, "She's a beauty." Then, in a voice that carried across the entire showroom, he said, "I'll take 5 of these." Laughter rippled through the room. At the counter, the manager, Melissa Hale, a sharp woman in her 50s with silver hair and heels that clicked like authority, smirked. "Sir," she said smoothly, "these are not bicycles. Each of these trucks costs more than most people earn in a lifetime." The old man didn't flinch. "I know," he said softly. "I'll take 5. A younger saleswoman, Jenna, tried to hide her laughter. Another rolled her eyes. Melissa sighed. "Sir, perhaps you're looking for the used truck lot down the street." The man smiled gently. "No," he said. "I'm exactly where I need to be. Maybe you're just seeing the wrong man." He turned away and poured himself a paper cup of water from the dispenser. His hands were rough but steady, hands that had built engines, fixed broken things, carried weight heavier than metal. No one there knew his story. No one knew his name, Raymond Cole. Once he was an engineer, a soldier, a father, a husband. Years ago, he had everything that mattered. A wife named Lila, a son named Ben, and a small but proud trucking business he'd built with his own hands. But life, as it often does, came for him in waves. His wife got sick, hospital bills swallowed his savings. Then his company was crushed by a bigger one that offered cheap contracts and heartless competition. When his son died in an accident delivering supplies for that same company, something inside him broke. Raymond lost his family, his business, and his will to smile. But he didn't lose faith in the road. He believed that every road, no matter how rough, led somewhere if you just kept walking. For 5 long years, he worked anywhere he could, repairing engines by the roadside, sleeping in broken-down garages, eating from vending machines, saving every coin. He had a dream, to start again. A company called New Route Logistics, built not for profit but for purpose, where veterans, widows, and the homeless could drive again, rebuild again, live again. And today, that dream had brought him here. Melissa had already dismissed him in her mind. She turned back to her computer when she heard his voice again. Quiet but firm. "Ma'am," Raymond said, setting a folder gently on the desk. "Here's my purchase order." She took it almost out of pity, ready to prove it was fake. But when she flipped through the pages, her smile slowly faded. It was legitimate. Company seal, signature, everything proper. At the bottom was a signature she recognized immediately, Robert Mendez, the regional head of Mercedes Commercial Partnerships. The man who only approved purchases for high-value clients. Melissa blinked. How did you get this authorization?" she stammered. Raymond smiled faintly. "He was my student once," he said, "when he was learning logistics and engine design. I used to fix his trucks before he could afford a company logo." Silence filled the room. The laughter from earlier now felt heavy, shameful. Jenna's eyes softened. The others looked down. Melissa's voice broke the silence. "Mr. Cole, I didn't realize." He raised a hand gently. "You don't have to apologize," he said. "You only did what the world teaches, to see with eyes, not with heart." For the next hour, the showroom transformed. Calls were made, documents checked, every detail confirmed, and every single thing came back clean. Raymond Cole wasn't crazy. He wasn't lost. He was a man on a mission. When the payments cleared, Melissa could only watch in stunned silence as her team processed the order. 5 brand-new Mercedes trucks, each destined to be driven by someone who once slept under bridges or fought battles no one remembered. That evening, when the crowd was gone and the light faded into gold, Melissa found herself standing beside Raymond near the delivery bay. She hesitated, then said softly, "I judged you the moment you walked in. Your clothes, your beard, your bag. I thought you were just another dreamer chasing a fantasy." Raymond smiled, his tired eyes glimmering with something peaceful. "Dreams don't die," he said. "They just wait for the right hands to build them again." He turned to look at the trucks gleaming in the fading light. "These machines," he said, "will feed families. They'll carry hope from one town to another. That's worth more than pride. Don't you think?" Melissa nodded slowly, her eyes damp. "It is," she whispered. The next morning, the world saw a sight no one expected. 5 spotless white trucks rolled out of the Mercedes showroom, each one driven by a man or woman who, just days before, had nowhere to sleep. The town stopped to watch. People clapped. Some cried. By the end of the day, everyone knew the story of the ragged old man who walked into a luxury showroom and bought 5 trucks. Not to show off, but to rebuild lives. A week later, Melissa received a letter in the mail. It was handwritten, neat but old-fashioned. It read, "Thank you for the laughter. It reminded me how far I've come. Maybe kindness doesn't start with believing in others, but in giving them a chance to prove you wrong." Melissa framed the letter and placed it in her office, right where she could see it every morning. And from that day, no one who walked through her doors was ever judged by their shoes or their clothes again. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Tales by Nanya, where real stories remind us that compassion still exists and that one act of faith can change 100 lives. Before you go, tell us in the comments, if you were in Melissa's place that day, would you have laughed too? Or listened a little closer? Because sometimes the most extraordinary souls walk in wearing torn clothes and leave behind lessons that shine brighter than chrome.